Thanks for joining, everyone. We're going to give it just a minute as people join the meeting, and we'll get started in just a second. All right, looks like the attendees are slowing down here. We want to welcome you all to our webinar today. We're glad that you're here, and we hope that you find value in the information that we're going to share with you. A few housekeeping items. If you could make sure to put any questions that you have in our Q&A box on the webinar, we will answer those throughout, and then we're going to open it up at the end if there's any questions. We'll also provide a recording to all of those who registered to attend this webinar. So if you have to jump out for whatever reason, you'll get a copy of this after the webinar. The focus of our webinar today is to help new users get oriented to BestNotes and answer any questions you may have as a new user. We sent this out to a targeted list of users who've been added in the last 6 months, and so this is really for you as a new user of BestNotes. It's my pleasure to introduce Scott McMurtry. Scott has been here with BestNotes for 7 years, and he's been on our support team that entire time while he's been here. Scott loves the culture of BestNotes, and you'll see that he loves to share that share our values of BestNotes of transparency, empathy, creativity with our customers. He's passionate about helping the helper, and he feels like he's making the world a better place through the support he provides to our BestNotes customers. And I'll now turn that time over to Scott.
Thank you, Kristen. Yeah, hello. I help run our support team here. I've been doing it for a while. I might have spoken with many of you. If not, feel free to call us. I'm happy to help. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. As Kristen mentioned, this particular webinar is more focused on new user, kind of the basics of BestNotes. Feel free again to insert any questions you have into the chat. And I will share my screen. All righty. Are we seeing my screen all right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm getting a nod. All right, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here as good old Joe Regular. And what you see may be slightly different depending on your permissions, but generally it's going to look like this. First thing you see is the calendar tab. So when you're in the calendar here, there's in essence 3 sections to it. 3 is a magic number we'll see in lots of parts of BestNotes. We have the calendar over here on the right. We have the review area over here on the left, and we also have the tasks also over here on the left. With the calendar, the reason we usually start here is because you can combine scheduling, you can combine billing and note-taking all in one place. You don't have to do it from the calendar. Not all of our companies use it, but it is often the most efficient method. So we usually start here. So to schedule an appointment, you just click somewhere on the calendar. It opens up this window. It's fairly straightforward. If you've ever used any other scheduling software, it's not going to be particularly confusing, but you can choose different appointment types. These can be set up by your system administrator. You can notice here that there is a billing code and a note template assigned to this billing or to this calendar appointment. We're going to look into those, at least the template, a little bit more in detail later. You can add a subject or you can leave it blank. We can change the start and end time as needed by clicking on these fields here. By default, whatever calendar you click on, that's who is going to be set as the provider. When you log in as you, it's going to be your calendar that you're looking at, unless you change your view. We'll look into that later. You can also assign, if you have permissions, to other providers as well. From the Contacts tab is where we can add participants in the appointment. And it's also where we can add other users as kind of also participants. It will show up on their calendar, but they won't be listed as the provider. We have a couple icons up here. We're not going to spend too much time on them, but if you hover your mouse over these icons, most things in BestNotes do have a little tooltip that can be a good refresher on what they do. These icons here are just telling us what the attendance status is of this person. And these icons over here, these columns, this one here underneath the notepad is indicative of whether or not we're making a note for this person. This one under the spreadsheet icon is indicating whether or not we'll be adding a billing code to this person. Recurrence is exactly what it says. You can have things repeat. We can either have it end on a specific time, or we can set a certain number of meetings. The benefit of this is you can see any upcoming conflicts right here before you save it. You'll be able to select, what conflicting appointment you're going to go with, or you can choose to overlap them as well. But it's a way of preventing the need to reschedule later by scheduling properly to begin with. A quick note on notes in BestNotes, is this is not intended as, this is not your clinical note here. This notes tab is for the appointment itself. It is where we're putting in, maybe phone numbers, contact information, hide the peanuts, they're allergic, whatever works. But this is not where we're putting in PHI. This is more easily accessible by people depending on permissions. This is just for the appointment itself. And then we're not going to really spend a lot in billing today. That's not the purpose of this webinar, but you can also tweak the ledger here as well. Once it's been saved, we can reopen it. We notice these options over on the right. We can check in the appointment. Since we are logged in as Joe Regular, checking in will also begin the appointment, and it will open up the note associated with it. We're going to look at this note a little bit more in detail later, but it can be created from the calendar. When we're done, we would check out. Billing codes are not going to apply until it's checked out. That's an important thing to remember if you're using the BestNotes billing functionality. Until we say, yes, the appointment is done, they're not going to be billed for it. All right, that's making a basic appointment. There's different appointment types, but they all function that way. As far as other calendar navigation goes, up here we can choose different calendar views. Notice that if we move away from day view to either work week, week, or month, it does hide the review and tasks area. That's only visible in day view. We also have the ability up here with this little calendar with a plus icon to view other people's calendars, whether in overlay view, or we can view them right next to each other in column view. We can also tweak what user groups that we're looking at if there's lots of users, or hit the reset to go back to our default values.
So Scott, there's two questions with this. One, will the calendar show me if the client has a conflicting appointment?
Great question. So this conflict is for the provider. This doesn't sync with a client calendar per se. If you have a repeating appointment for that client on your calendar, then yes, absolutely. But if two different providers are seeing them, no, it's not really going to notify you of that. This is looking for conflicts for the provider.
Okay, second question is, can you schedule recurrence for groups?
Great question. Yes, absolutely. Groups can be scheduled to recur just as well as anything else. Any other questions on what we covered so far?
One quick thing, can you show them, like on contacts, can you have a group of contacts that you assign to a calendar appointment, and then that goes to the group.
Absolutely. So you can always assign multiple contacts, kind of one by one. Certainly, we can have as many people added as we need. But also, if you have certain tags set up, so if you have a group tag, you are able to pull in everyone with that tag. Doesn't look like we have anyone tagged with that in our webinar database, but we can pull everyone with that tag in all at once. So if you have an AM group tag, it's easy to yank them all in one fell swoop.
Thank you.
Good questions. All right. Last and arguably least, we do have this little ellipsis up here. You can print the current calendar view. If you're looking at the day, you'll print the day. If you're looking at the week, you'll print the week. And then you can also toggle whether or not you want to see canceled or rescheduled appointments. By default, that's on. If that doesn't bother you, then go ahead and turn it off, depending on what you need. Also on the calendar page, we have the review and the tasks. I'm just going to hit on tasks really quickly. It's a glorified to-do list. For some people, it's really handy. You can track what needs to be done and by when. Great. You can put in a priority, what the status is. Some people use it. It really helps them keep track of things or assign things to other employees. Other people don't use it at all, ignore it forever. That's up to you. If you're in the latter camp, we have this little arrow here where you can minimize it. The log area has three different sections. You may or may not, or four different sections actually. You may or may not see all of them. This user here does not have access to the general log. That's not something we want him to have per se. The general log lists everything ever that they have permission to view. Without the general log, we have the Q log. The Q log stands for quick log, and it can be used for a couple things. One of its best features is that it can be used as a HIPAA compliant internal messaging system that can also be logged to a client. So we can make a note. We can choose who we're going to send it to. And we can also, if applicable, apply it directly to a client's chart. This is encrypted end to end. Only other BestNotes users that it's sent to are able to see this. It's a good, secure method of communications. We can also restrict who can view these notes by user groups. The other thing QLog can do is it's a reminder system. Whether or not you use that functionality depends on your particular company's policies and workflows, but that functionality is there. And also, as you notice, will tell you that there's been things scheduled in your calendar or other types of reminders that way. We also have an in progress tab. This is a newer feature, not brand new, but it's something that some of your companies may or may not be aware of if they've been with us for a while. This will show notes that are actively in progress by this user, Joe Regular here. And it's a quick way to jump into them and finish them up. This is especially handy if someone else is getting the notification. We can't open this because Joe Regular is still editing the note. If they've forgotten about it, they can go to in progress, open it up, save it, and do what they need to. We also have the for review tab. Anything that you need to sign that you didn't create, and we'll look into that in a little bit when we're going through the notes, but anything you need to sign that you didn't create and finalize that someone else has assigned to you is going to show up here in your for review tab. You're able to see the items here. You can click on the signature required. It will open up the specific document. You can review it. Then you have the option of either signing it, or you can not sign it, or potentially even remove your signature requirement from it if it's not something that you feel appropriate to sign. That will get it off of your for review. Or you can, of course, add your digital signature by pressing the sign entry button. That's a good way to keep on top of all of your tasks and things that you need to review. That's our basic calendar page. Are there any questions, Kristen, that have come in?
One question from Carrie said, "Can we see a list of session types?" I'm not sure if that's back on the calendar.
Great question. Yes, the session types we can find here under type. This can be very customized. What we have here is a basic, a demo purpose appointment types. You can have entirely different types. You can have multiple individual session types for half an hour, 1 hour. You can have ones for LCSWs, ones for RNs. Whole lot of customization that can be done here. We're not going to be going into the customization right now. That's more of an admin thing. But yes, all the appointment types that are active will show up here in the type dropdown.
She says, "That is great. Thanks."
Excellent.
That's all the questions we have. You can move forward.
Fantastic. All right. So next we will look at a client's page. First thing we're going to do though is create a new client. We'll go ahead and add another doe here. In this top left, we have this little search bar. By typing in a couple letters, it gives us the option of creating a new client as well as other contact types. We're going to go ahead and do new client. And it will pull up this window where we can put in the information. I'm not going to finalize this here, but I do just want to show you what it looks like when you create a new client record. Not all of this is required. The more data, the better for our reporting. We have a robust reporting features in BestNotes, and the more good data you have, the more good data you can get out. But all you have to have in order to save this is a name and an access tag. Your system administrator can make more fields required depending on your state requirements or company requirements, but in general, unless that's been edited, you need a name and an access tag and you'll be able to save it. All right, let's go to an existing client. If we need to edit any of that information we saw, we can click on their name in the top left of their page to open the edit contact details, and we can edit things here. I'm going to go ahead and add an alternate ID. One thing I do want to point out here is this CID number. This is automatically generated when a client is created. This can be a useful method of communicating with BestNotes. We have a great help desk that we're happy to aid you with. A good way to access it is just sending an email to team@bestnotes.com. However, email is not always secure. You don't really want to be sending PHI. So instead of saying, hey, Timothy Test here is having a problem on his master treatment plan, you would instead say, hey, CID number 23, we're having some trouble with this treatment plan. Can you please assist? That way, if it's intercepted by any bad actors, doesn't matter. They can't do anything with it. And security, of course, is becoming ever more important in our digital landscape today. All right, the client's page is also split into 3 different sections. Up here, we have the demographics up on top. We have the activity log over here on the right. And we have the miscellaneous tabs over here on the left. The activity log is basically the grand history of everything ever that has happened for this client that you, the user, have permission to see. Different notes can be restricted to certain user groups. And if you aren't part of that user group, you won't be able to see it. But what you can see will be right here. We can go ahead and click on these blue links to open it. Assessments are going to open up in another window. Notes are going to open up within the activity log itself. Keep in mind that there are 50 items per page. If the client's been there for a while, you may need to go to page 2, 3, 6, whatever to see all of their data. I do get calls on occasion panicking that their information is from when they started is gone. It's not gone. It's on page 2. We also have the ability over here to filter. If we want to look at just master treatment plans, for example, we can do that. We can specify the types of documents we're looking for, or we can look at just items that have been uploaded. We can also, with this little arrow here hidden in the corner, we can filter by user and or by date. It's a way of parsing down, especially if they have, 6 pages of notes, to find exactly what you're looking for. Now, we saw that we can create a note from the calendar page. We can also create a note directly here on the client's page, a template note. We're going to look at that in just a moment. Quick review of our miscellaneous tabs over here. It's not something we're going to go into too much detail in this webinar, but we can add related contacts, like a mom, a parole officer, a guardian, whatever, a referrer. Those are all things we can add as a contact. We can add separate treatment episodes or add different programs here in our episodes tab. If you're using BestNotes billing, we can add and edit payers. BestNotes data forms can be used to capture any static points of data that we aren't capturing elsewhere so that you can report on it. We have the tasks that ties in directly to the other tasks we looked at. This one is specific for a client. Files are uploaded files. You'll see them in the activity log if they've been uploaded as well. But you can also see them in the files tab. Here's also where you would upload a file. And then we have the register if you're doing billing, where you can edit and review there. Any questions, Kristen, about what we've covered so far on the client page?
Yeah, we have about 3. Can we look up a client by date of birth?
Great question. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up. It's easily missed. We have this little arrow here next to our little search window. The parameters that we can search by are the last name, first name, business name, phone number, the CID, and the alternate ID. Unfortunately, we can't search by date of birth. But something that can come up is if these items are changed and you're trying to type in, Timothy, and it's not showing up, a good place to check would be right here. Make sure you have the proper things enabled. Good question. But we can always run a report by birth dates. That's not something we're going to get into today, but you'll be able to click on through the report if that's something important to you, but it's not going to go through our default search function.
Great. Second question, where can I find client medications?
Great question. If you have permissions for that, that is found in the Med Clinical tab. The Med Clinical tab holds all of your assessments and treatment plans. It also holds location to put in medications. The place in BestNotes to store medications that will pull into other places that are calling for that medication information is right here in the Meds tab in the Med Clinical window. We also, as you notice, we can have vitals. We can also track allergies as well as making custom tests like urinalysis or whatever else you might need. That can all be done here as well.
Another question, is there a way to filter the list search to only current residents?
Good. As far as we're talking about over here, we want to only see current residents. Not directly. What we can do, and whether or not this works for you does depend on how consistent you are with it. But if a client leaves, is no longer current, we could change this to past discharged. We could inactivate it here. And as such, when I do search for these people, I can see that Timothy is grayed out, indicating, hey, he's not a current client. But that's something that needs to be done manually. We can't really expunge it from the search itself. This is going to show you everyone with that name that you have permission to see.
So Scott, maybe we can show them in the bottom left-hand corner if we click on contacts. You can see a list of your current clients down there by clicking on types.
Uh-oh. Hope you enjoyed my background there. Yeah, we can filter by tags. We can filter by types. We can also decide whether or not to show inactive clients here. We can filter by first name and last name. This does not directly show birth dates here. Again, we can make a report for that pretty easily. We're not going through reports today, but if that's something important for you to be able to capture and navigate to and click on people through the reports, that is doable.
All right. And last question is back to the calendar. Is there a way to make our calendar slots bigger?
Yes, that is something that a system administrator will have to do. That goes back in the calendar settings. In fact, this is perhaps a bit of a segue. No, I'm not going to go there right now. But yes, the short answer is yes. It does affect everyone, however. It is system-wide. You can make the slots bigger. You can make them slightly smaller. You can also change what your default scheduling intervals are, whether if you want to go by 15-minute, 10-minute, 5-minute. But again, that is a global setting that will apply to all users in your database.
All
Good
right.
question.
One other question that just came through, and I'm not sure if we're going to get here, or if this is pre, but we'll preview it if it is. Is there a way to run a log review or a registered ledger report using the authorization underneath the payers tab? Or is there a way to run a log review using the client's episodes? I know how using the tags.
Yes. It's a bit of a sidetrack, but I like that. If you go to the P-log review, we're able to do a log review that we can filter by program from the episodes tab. If we're talking about separate treatment episodes, we would have to filter that by tag in our normal reports. And if you have more questions about that, feel free to either send us an email to team@bestnotes.com or call us. We're happy to help you with that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but good question. Really appreciate it. All
Adam
right.
says thank you, so we're ready to go forward.
All right. Excellent. We're going to go ahead and make a basic note. So again, it can be done through the calendar. You can also do it here from the new note tab. The default note it pulls up, it's more or less a sticky note. You can put in something basic. Usually you're going to select this note type drop down and pick a template note. We're going to go ahead and open up a clinical progress note. Now, our webinar database is tied to our clinical profile. It's a pre-built documentation set that we automatically update for you. If you're not using that and it might be potentially beneficial for you, feel free to contact us. It's a very good system for most people, just so you're aware. All right, so we notice a couple things. One, any note you create, you are automatically added as a signer. Joe Regular here also has a supervising provider of SAM MIC administrator, so that is also being added by default. That is set up elsewhere, but you will always be added as a signer to anything you create. You can remove yourself if it's for some reason you don't need to, but generally that's something that should be there. Now, the notes here are built out of a couple different components. We have the template itself, the bones of the note, as it were. Progress note, client name, data service. All of the clinical progress notes are going to look like this. There's the variables or the special fields. That's going to be different, but it's still pulling in automatically. Timothy test, the provider is going to be, depending on who set that, either the person assigned in their user or whoever created the appointment or note. That stuff is pulling in automatically. And then we have the auto notes over here on the right. And the auto notes is one thing that makes BestNotes the best at notes. If we go ahead and especially if you're using the clinical profile, they're designed, you just go through it top to bottom. We want to make your notation take as little time as possible so that you can go about actually helping your clients or other things that you need to do with your valuable time. So if it's built properly in your database, you can just go through the auto notes and it's going to make most of the note for you. We have our variables down here as well as what it looks like up here. So we're going to do a stop time. It's going to be 12:30, sure. Duration is going to be 1 hour more or less. This one's an individual. It's done at the office, in person, and a client and a family member is there. All right. I just clicked a few items and boom, the section of the notes already filled in. All right. If I need to pull in their diagnosis, most treatment planning notes need to pull in their diagnosis. That's what you're treating. I can pull in the initial just by clicking this button here, or I can pull in the master diagnosis that can pull in more information. Data, pretty similar. All notes will have different auto notes, but they're all going to function pretty much the same way. So exactly what it says may be different, but really, if you just go through it, it's pretty point and click. These goals and problems here are also pulling from Timothy's treatment plan. So I can pick which ones we discussed. Boom, that note section is already filled out. We can do a readiness to change. Using contemplation. Sure. We can do a mental status exam. Orientation. We can do a quick risk assessment. I'm going to say there doesn't seem to be a problem. Then we can do a follow-up plan. Next appointment, that's going to be next week. And boom, I've made a pretty big note. I've done it in a minute or less. Again, these can be customized to you and your needs to some degree. Reach out to us if you have any questions on that. We also have the ability to pull in information from previous notes of the type. If you had other clinical progress notes, I'd be able to pull up earlier ones and yank some information forward from them. Be careful with that. If an auditor comes in and sees all your notes are the same, you're not going to have a great day. But if things haven't changed significantly or you just need to add a sentence or two, it can be another way of making your note taking faster. You can also yank information in from data forms as well. Any questions that we've had on this section so far, Kristen?
Yeah, if I need to make a change to where you clicked on the auto note and put it in, do I click the button again?
Good question. So there's two things we can do here. One, despite this being automated, everything over here on the left is editable. We can change or retype anything we want. Alternatively, yes, we can always hit the button again. You'd probably want to delete what's already there, but yes, we can make whatever changes. Because I didn't delete what was there, we kind of have it stacking here. But yeah, you can always click it again, add more. In fact, there are some situations where you may have an auto note where you want to do multiple instances of it at the same time. In that case, you could fill in the information you need, then append multiple, and it will just keep the window open so you can go in and fill it in again. Good question.
Another question, is there a way to permanently add more than one signer?
Yes, that's done through the supervising provider. Caveat on that is that needs to be done per user. So each user needs to have a supervising provider set. And two, you can only have one supervising provider. So if we're wanting kind of a universal, also someone to be added, like a clinical supervisor or something for everyone, that would need to be either assigned to each person individually, or we need to get in the habit of adding them manually. Good question. They're all good questions. Thank you for asking them. I love it.
Yeah. Here's another one. Does the date in the note schedule the appointment?
Great question. No, the date and the appointment is the text here, note here, sorry, is all text. None of this is dynamic data. This is storing the note itself. It is not pushing to other areas of BestNotes. So putting in the next appointment type, unfortunately, is not scheduling the next appointment type. You would still need to do that in BestNotes. One reason for that is we do have people that don't use the BestNotes calendar. But yeah, this is being stored as text, not as a dynamic field that will feed into other areas. Good question.
One just came in. Can you, oh, two more. Can you demonstrate how to have two permanent signers set to a user?
As I mentioned, I might not have been clear enough. You can only have one supervising provider added at a time. We aren't able to have two. Let me actually pull up an admin version of this database so we can look at that really quickly. All right, this is the same database. We're looking at kind of an admin view. If we go to users, settings, and then users, we can set a supervising provider. We can't have two. So if he needs to add two people consistently, the second one we're going to need to do more manually in the node itself.
Okay. And then how do you get it to send the client a text for their appointment?
That's another good question. Feel free to contact us for if you want a little bit more of a walkthrough with that. But the basics of it is if you have that turned on, I'm back in the admin log. There we go. Appointment reminders. You can turn appointment reminders on. You set the parameters of the text message to be sent. You can specify which appointment types it is sent for. It will send automatically. There is a 5-cent charge for each text incoming and outgoing. That's what we're charged, and we pass the cost on to you. Big happy family there. But it will also give you an estimate based on your current usage of how much that's going to be. That will happen automatically as you use the calendar. This is only going to send reminders if the appointment and the note is tied to the calendar. It doesn't pull from the activity log.
I think we're good.
Excellent. All right, a couple other things just to be aware of on notes. We have our different save buttons here. Save keeps the note open. If you just click save, the note is still open. One thing that can be easy to forget is BestNotes is storing your data on an encrypted cloud platform. That's great. If your computer, disappears, gets abducted by aliens, gets struck by lightning like my tree did the other day, it's all on the cloud. It's saved. You can access it later if you hit the save button at some point. Because, as I mentioned, this area right here is just text. It's not really a dynamic field. We do need to hit the save button before it syncs with our server. So if you have a long note that you're going through, might be good to hit the save button just in case your laptop's running low on power or whatever. Save and close will save the note. And it will close it out. That's saying the note's not finished. It's not signed yet. There's more work that needs to be done on it, but I'm done with it for now. Maybe I have another client coming in. Maybe it's lunchtime. That's closing it. It's saving it, but we can go back to it. Close is just getting rid of the note altogether. We're discarding any changes that may have been made. And then we have save, sign, and lock. Or if you're not a signer, it will just say save and lock. That is saying that the note is finalized, it's done, we are attaching our digital name to it. As I mentioned earlier, with the for review tab, Joe here is signed in. He's the one that's doing this. It's not going to go to his for review tab. Are you sure you want to sign this? Yes. He's already logged in with a personal identifier. He already has put in his username and password that only he knows. All he needs to do is confirm. Are you sure you want to? Yes. For Sam McAdministrator, however, it is going to push to his review for review tab on his calendar page to review and sign if appropriate. It does give you a warning. Once note's been locked, it can't be edited or deleted. A system administrator or someone with the proper permissions can unlock it for edits later. However, that removes all signatures. If you do that, then you would need to re-sign it, and the new signing date would reflect the time it is signed secondarily. We can't backdate signature times. Just like I wouldn't want my bank to be able to add and $1 million on my contracts with them without having me sign it again. Any questions on that?
we don't have any questions on that particular thing. We do have some, and maybe we need to go back at the end to address
Okay.
these. Is does the appointment reminder text automatically go to the phone number set in the client demographics, and is the charge given to the Best Notes account?
Good questions. Um, I like saying good question. It's a habit of mine because I love questions and they're all good questions. So thank you for having them. If they have a number in the cell field, so this guy here, Timothy Test, it's not going to go to him. Let's put this number over here in the cell phone field. Then, hey, he would get that text reminder if he scheduled an appointment, as long as this is not unchecked. By default, this will be checked, but they're able to opt out and you're able to unclick this if they do not want to receive a text message from you. As far as the bill, yes, it is attached to your Best Notes bill at the end of the month.
And then the last question is, can you do another note from the start? I didn't see where to open the note to start it.
Yeah, not a problem. So again, they can be also opened from the calendar, and in a lot of situations, that's the best way to do it. But from a client's page, over here on top of the activity log area, we have a new note button. We would then usually click the note type drop down, choose the type of note we need. Hey, we're going to say we need a medical note, progress note this time. We'll notice that this looks a little bit different, but you go through it the same way, go through the auto notes, fill in what you need, and you're golden.
All right, we're good.
All right. If you have any other questions, put them in. We're getting to the end of what I wanted to cover today. The last thing I kind of wanted to go over, you can find in settings. Now, what you see in settings is going to be very different depending on your permissions, but everyone is going to have the My User profile here. And there's a couple things that this is going to be valuable for. One, you're able to change your password if you think yours is maybe compromised, or if it's coming up to expiration. By default, they expire every 90 days. Your system administrator can extend or shorten that if they so desire. We can also verify your email address. Most new users will do this upon account creation, so you're probably already all good with this. But if your email changes, you can come here and verify the new one by sending a verification code. It'll go to your email, you'll type it in, verify, hooray. We can also, for added security, set up a two-factor authentication app. There's no one app that works. We have people here that use Symantec. We have people that use Microsoft. We have people that use Google Authenticator. Almost all of them are going to be compatible with it, but that's to add a second layer of security to your login. If your password, if you don't remember it, or if it gets timed out and you don't reset it in time, BestNotes is only able to help you reset a password if you're a system administrator. That's another good reason to verify your email address. Once that's verified, you'll be able to reset your own password by sending a password reset to your verified address. We can also set up a couple different preferences here. Do I want to get notifications in the queue log for new appointments or whatnot? We can toggle that on or off. Do I want to receive an email in addition or instead? We can also toggle that on or off. I get enough emails as is, I'm leaving it off. We can also, if we want to see two calendars over here, we kind of have a little mini calendar for navigation over here on the left. If you have a big enough screen, you want to see two of them, we can turn that on here. We notice that we have a default date range for our in progress tab that was back on the calendar. By default, it's set to 7 days, although we can certainly go a lot longer. As we notice, we can set a different default right here. The QLog email address isn't something I'm going to go into too much detail here, but feel free to call us if you have more questions. But in essence, if you send an email to this email address, it is going to go to your QLog. It will show up here, and from there, you're going to be able to attach the information to a client or send it to another user or whatever. Again, once it hits our servers, we can't guarantee what the email is doing before it hits our servers, but once it hits there, it is secure, HIPAA compliant, end-to-end encryption, all that happy stuff. This is not a changeable email address, so don't send it to people that will be spamming you. And also note that attachments are not supported. Anything that could potentially have a virus, we take security very seriously here. So it's just going to be the text more or less that you're sending. We also have the ability to sync your BestNotes calendar with another calendar. So if you want to see your BestNotes schedules on your Google Calendar on your phone or your Apple Calendar on your iPad or what have you, you can do that with our iCal link here. Note that it is one way. You can push your BestNotes to your Google, but you can't push your Google to your BestNotes. That's a security thing. But that's the way it is. You can also from here review your license agreement if you so choose. The last thing that I want to cover, it's a magic button up here. We have a little red eye. That's a shortcut link to our phone number if you need to call us. Has our availability. We do have an emergency line open after hours. Please only use that in emergencies, but it is available for you. You can also click here to open up our help page. And that will have a lot of answers for you as well if you don't want to call us at that time. And that's what I have for new user and basic navigation. We will open the rest of the time up to any more questions that we may have.
Yeah, we've got some good ones that have come in. Can we send our records or communicate straight out of Best Notes with our QLog emails, such as sending progress notes to parole officers or courts?
Good question. No, that's intended for ingoing only. We're not covering the portal today. That's something that we will have in a future webinar. We also have a recorded webinar on our YouTube page that covers it as well. But our recommended method of sending it to people is through our portal. It's a bit more secure, and the QLog email address is only used for incoming, not outgoing.
How can I remind myself to see a client?
Good question. So the general way of sending reminders to yourself would be through the tasks here. We can go to the master tasks tab is going to show everything. The one on the calendar is only going to show things that are coming up the next 7 days. But if we have a task, it will show up right here. Some people have also kind of used the system creatively and created like an appointment or a reminder appointment, a little 15-minute appointment at the start of the day that pops up, hey, do this. But for the most part, BestNotes trusts you. There's not a lot of little pop-up notifications, hey, hey, hey. But if you need to set a reminder, the tasks is a great way to do that. And on that note, if we also have the ability, as I mentioned, of adding a task directly to a client. So assign that to Joe Regular. That way it will show up here on the client's page as well as on the the calendar page.
Okay. Here's another one. If you want to go over this, can you schedule a group in the calendar again?
Yeah, so, let's go ahead and create a group really quickly. We're going to go ahead and add as tags. Gabby, we'll add Tim. Let's add a couple others. So I am denoting these people as part of Group A, whatever that is. That is certainly not the only name you can choose. That's just what we have kind of as an example here. Oh, he's already part of Group A. Excellent. All right. Then when I create a new calendar appointment, I will set to a group type. And then next to the contacts where I can type things in, I can also click on this guy here and pull in from group A, although this seems to be delaying a little bit. There we go. And boom, everyone that's set to group A is automatically pulling in. And then we can schedule it to recur as necessary. Any other questions?
Yes. Let's see. We'll get these ones here. Will there be an update so you can search by date of birth, or will that not ever be an option? We have several clients with same name and very inconvenient to try to find by the name.
Good question. I can't speak for our development team. We certainly are always working on improving our product. I wouldn't want to get your hopes up, however. It's not impossible. I don't think that would be put on our development priority list, but that's certainly always something we can request. Again, I recommend calling us and we can show you how to kind of build a custom report that might be able to do most of what you're wanting there. I'm not going to go through that here, but that might be something that we can work with you directly on.
Is there any way we can all that we can see all completed notes in a chosen time frame? Example, a generated list in chronological order.
Yes, if you have permissions, that can be done through our log review report. You can change our parameters here. Let's look at all users. Let's group by contacts. We're going to do everything and let's expand our date range. Boom. Here's everything that's been done in the date range per contact. We can also do it just by date. You can see who needs to sign it. We can see if it's been portalized. The log review is a great place, the best place to kind of get that aggregate view.
Okay. So Jennifer's asking this question, and uh, maybe we need a little more clarification. Jennifer, can you schedule a group without adding clients? Not sure why you would want to have a group without clients, but you, when you're scheduling a group, there's always clients in that group.
So we can, actually, let me pull back up our admin version.
She said, if you don't know who's going to show up.
Got you. Good question. So whether or not an appointment type requires a contact is set in the calendar settings. If the appointment type, if the group therapy does not require a contact, then technically you could, and then you can add them as they show up. Although you cannot add people after it's been checked in. But before it's been checked in, that is feasible as long as your calendar settings are set up to allow that.
Great. Can you show us how to attach an incoming email to a client chart?
Ooh. Yes. Let's see here. We don't have a real email here with Joe Regular, but I do have. We can do. All right. I am going to go in another window and send an email. No, or not another window. Here we are. You don't need to see how full my inbox is. I'm going to drag that over here. All right. Recipient is jregular.bno. All right. So that has been sent. This might take a moment to go through the servers. Let's see here. All right, we'll come back to that. This may take a moment. Do we have another question to jump into?
Yes. I am guessing that we can customize our note templates.
Great question. Oh, all right, so here is the note. We're going to get to that moment, but this popped up now, and I included a special character. That was my bad. But here is the email that came through. I can hit the update button and log it to a contact, as well as send it to other participants, just like any other communication. As far as editing your templates, I'm not going to go too much detail in this, but there's a couple things we can do. Let me pull up the admin window again. If you have permissions, you can go here into the templates area. We have the profile templates here. Again, the profile documentation set is kind of pre-built and curated. It's continually updated to fit CARF JCO standards. But because it's kind of a one size fits most, they're a little less editable. So if you need changes on these guys, it's going to be a little harder. Go ahead and send a request. If it's a great idea that will apply to everyone, they might incorporate that into the next profile update. But any customized templates that either we've built for you or that you've built yourself, you can go here in the template settings and edit them directly. Or you can send us, again, an email to team@bestnotes.com requesting what changes you would like, and we can do that for you. We do not charge for template updating. The potential benefit of learning how to do it yourself is that you're not beholden to our timetable. We do it on a first come, first served basis. On the other hand, we're less likely to break things. So whatever works best for you. We also do have on our YouTube page a recorded webinar on building some basic documentation. The presenter's kind of annoying, but he really knows his stuff. It's me, so I can say that.
We have about 3 minutes and 4 questions, so let's see if we can get through them. How do we create templates for contact notes that are billable?
Good question. So template creation, again, is just done through settings and then templates. You can make whatever type of note you want. We can create a new one. It can be a contact note, whatever you want. As far as making it billable, that's not tied to the template directly. That's one reason we start with the calendar, because through the calendar, we can tie a billing code, a billable service, as it were, to a template and an appointment type. We can have them all kind of tied together. Otherwise, you'll need to add them separately. That can be done if you have a note that already exists. We can go ahead and add by clicking on the note. We have this little peach bar with some extra options. If we click the Register Ledger tab, we can add, actually it's already open, we can add more billable codes to the note, but it's done kind of after the fact if it's not done through the calendar.
Great. How do I upload a client's document?
Good question. So that's done through the Files tab. You just come to the Files tab here on the client's chart. You'd hit the Upload File. You would choose the file you want. There is a 50 megabyte maximum per file. That's a pretty big maximum. You're not going to run into that problem very often. And if you have like 16 49 megabyte files, not a problem, but 50 is the max. You just upload it here. BestNotes is pretty file type agnostic. You can upload pretty much anything you want. Best practice, however, is to upload PDFs if you have a choice between like a Word document or a PDF. PDFs are fairly open licensing. Adobe owns that, but their licensing is pretty open. You'll be able to open it in a window in BestNotes. Whereas if you do a Microsoft Word file, you'd have to download it to be able to open it because we can't open that natively.
All right.
But once it's been uploaded, we can find it here in the Files tab or in their activity log.
Another question, can I add date of birth as the alt ID and then search by it?
It's not a bad idea. I'm not sure if we can do like a hyphen in here. Let's find out. Good experiment. Let's see. 30. See if that works. It might. Finger cross. All right. So it looks like the hyphens and the slashes aren't going to work, but yes, theoretically you could put in something just more numeric. And we have Alt ID. Oh, we didn't have Alt ID. We can try that slash again. But yes, that is something you could do if that would be beneficial. But now I'm curious, and we're going to try the lines again. I've been here 7 years doing all sorts of stuff. Even I don't have every idea. I like it. Let's experiment. Oh, except there's an extra zero there. That's not going to do. Looks like it might. All right. Good idea. Love it.
That might solve the problem of searching by date of birth. We have two more questions. I think they're good to talk about for a minute. Is there a plan for implementing ASAM 4th edition changes into the relevant templates?
Yes, with an asterisk. That's done by our content management team, and I don't want to speak for them. There are ongoing discussions about that. So we're currently hoping to. I can't give any guarantees, yes or no, however, at this point.
Michael, we can reach out and give you a little bit more information on that. Adam has a question. Is there somewhere on your website that shows what to type into note templates, how to create open boxes, drop down menus, etc.?
Fantastic question. Yes. Let me show you my very favorite page on our help site. All righty. If you go here, our help page, and we're going to type in the word special, we're going to go to all special fields. Here is a complete list of everything that we can use to pull in to a template note or a group note, which are types of templates, anything that we can have pulled in automatically. As you notice, there's a lot. As such, I do not remember all of these. This web page is definitely bookmarked because I jumped to it on no small occasion.
All right. I
All
think
right.
think that's the end of our webinar. Thank you all for attending. We'll send you a copy of this. Thanks for your engagement. We've got some really good questions, and feel free if we didn't answer a question to send us an email at team@bestnotes.com. Hope you all have a wonderful day.